Since there are lots of people looking at different browsers, I decided I'm going to talk about one you've probably never heard of, Ladybird. Ladybird is a browser that is not built on top of Blink or Gecko. It is not just another Firefox or a Chrome fork. It is a completely new browser built from the ground up with its own engine. In the original design intent, it wasn't to be this grand alternative to Chrome or Firefox. It was actually designed for an OS called Serenity OS, made by the same dev, Andreas. And the way I understand it, the reason he started Serenity OS was as a challenge to himself. He wanted to see if he could build an operating system without any third-party libraries. So that means no Linux kernel, that means no cryptography. Everything had to be built from the ground up in-house. And it eventually got to the point where the operating system needed a browser, thus Ladybird was born. And eventually Andreas decided to shift his focus from Serenity OS into Ladybird. So Ladybird forked off of Serenity OS, became its own project, and when it did so, it also removed Serenity OS support and also dropped some of the in-house libraries that were designed for Serenity OS in favor of more established ones. And the reason it's called a truly independent browser is because it's not dependent on mega corporations like the other browsers are. In Edge's and Chrome's case, that's pretty obvious. Edge is backed by Microsoft, Chrome is backed by Google. In Firefox's case, it is developed by Mozilla, but a large part of Mozilla's funding is coming from Google's search deal with Mozilla to keep Google as the default search engine in Firefox. And in Ladybird's case, it's just built by the community. There is no really large megacorp backing Ladybird. And the biggest corporations that provided funding to Ladybird, to my knowledge, would be JetBrains and Shopify. And the funding that's coming from these companies are donations. It's not business dealings like what Mozilla has with Google. And as for website support and how Ladybird currently performs, as of December, they added WebGL support, which offloads certain operations to the GPU. And as for web platform tests, they're currently passing about 1.8 million versus Chrome's damn near 2 million. But as time goes on, Ladybird will eventually creep closer and closer to Safari, Firefox, and Chrome. It will eventually become a reasonable alternative that you can go and install. And the current target for the first alpha is actually in 2026. Current support as of right now is only macOS and Linux, and they do plan on doing Windows support in the future, but right now they're just focusing on building the browser itself rather than what platforms it supports, which I think is a good strategy. They should focus on the underlying engine and website support, and I am personally interested in installing it just to see what works and what doesn't. And since I'm on Arch Linux, I have the ability to install a pre-alpha version from the AUR. If you guys are interested in that, let me know. However, something to keep in mind is alpha software has alpha problems, and this hasn't even hit alpha yet. This is still pre-alpha. And I'm not sure if this will actually go and kill Firefox and Chrome. And honestly, I don't think it's up to the Ladybird team if it's actually going to do that either. It really comes down to Google at this point and how their antitrust case goes. If they lose the ability to conduct search deals, well then Mozilla's going to have to find a new source of revenue one way or another, whether it's through another mega corporation, ad campaigns, AI garbage, whatever. And on Google's side, there's a risk of them being forced to sell Chrome as well.